What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Wise Weekly. We are the two guys from Wise. I'm Mark Gary.
I'm Chad Miller.
We've got a couple special guests for you today. We've got Brandie Hayden, who's CEO of Wise Choices Pregnancy Resource Center. How'd you get that right?
Not Crisis Pregnancy Center.
And Laurie Perkins, who has been volunteering for, I believe, 16 years, and Brandie is the CEO. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks for coming.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
It's real exciting. And, I think, so I met you first, right? Because I've known Brandie and Eve for a long time. And when I moved to Wise County in 2013, I instantly got plugged into Wise Choices. Because back in Georgia, when we lived there, we had supported what was at the time a crisis pregnancy center. And found out real quick about Wise Choices, loved them ever since. So with that, we were just kind of, maybe going to open up and let y'all, like, Brandie, what is your background? How long have you lived in Wise County, and how did the abortion topic, how did that become something that you wanted to focus on?
Well, I've only lived in Wise County since October of 2019. My husband had retired from the Navy, and we moved up here. Corpus Christi was our last duty station. We were there for 7 years. We're native Texans, but he's a pilot, and we've always wanted to live on an air park, so we found an air park home.
We'll have to get you hooked up with Mark. Mark's taking flying lessons right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. So my background was I was also in the Navy for 14 years in the Civil Engineer Corps. So my degree's in industrial engineering. I was project manager at an oil and gas firm in Corpus. We moved up here, and COVID hit.
Yes.
Job search kind of went nil, and last summer, one of my neighbors shared with me the Wise Choices newsletter. And Eve, it was her first newsletter as being back as the interim director, and just her message, it just spoke to me because I had been praying, God, where do you want me? What's my purpose?
Right.
And the client services director that Laurie's now filling was an open position. And I'm like, why are they going to hire an engineer to do this job? But
it's not about up here so much as it was, right?
Right. And I felt the call. And so I applied, and I'm like, okay, I'm putting it in your hands. And I applied. I interviewed with Eve and Laurie, and instantly, I just felt the love in that place, and it was amazing. And then I was surprised I got the job. Laurie trained me to do that job.
You did a great job.
And so then 6 months later, Eve's time as interim director was coming to an end. And again, I felt like, God, I know you're telling me to do something that I just don't feel comfortable doing. I didn't feel like I had enough knowledge to do that job, but I just kept feeling that that was his purpose for me.
It's funny how when we get stretched, right? Mm-hmm. When we get stretched out of our comfort zone, that's whenever you see a lot of that God work happen, right? Always.
Every time.
Yep. So, Laurie, what about you?
Wow. Well, I'm from here. I grew up from 3 years old in Fairview and graduated high school here. And how did I get plugged into Wise Choices? Well, I can tell you when I was in college, I was more pro-choice. So I do understand the other side. God has a sense of humor. And my husband was pro-life and drove past the pregnancy center on his way to work.
And y'all are married at this point.
We are married.
Okay.
And he stopped in one day and said, I want to see what this place is, and began supporting.
He has been a big supporter for a long time, right? That's what I thought.
Yes, and I guess since they opened.
Wow.
Pretty much right after they opened, he saw it.
Whoa. So you were pro-choice, and you drove by Wise Choices?
My husband did. Drove by, and he went in there and wanted to know what it's all about, became a supporter.
Was this a subtle way of converting?
Well, he did not know. It's not like we talked about it.
Oh,
it's not
okay.
It was not a conversation. Because we were not just real vocal about our faith with each other at the time. And so he would come home with newsletters and he would just get so excited about the babies and show me pictures and everything. And and we went to galas every year.
Yeah.
Well, was not my favorite thing to do, I have to admit, until just, I don't know, after a few years of that, and with my past, it was hard to go.
So what was it a slow progression of, or was it maybe like Brandie said, like the loving people, or what was it that kind of turned?
It's God.
Yeah, well,
It's
of
just
course.
God, for sure. Well, and then, so I was a teacher at the time, and my husband said, I think you should volunteer at Wise Choices. I think it would be good. And I was like, I don't think I want to volunteer there.
Still at the moment,
Yes.
not necessarily.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
And
amazing.
Finally, after, I want to say 10 years of marriage, I surrendered.
That was
Wow.
it.
It was a
Good.
hard surrender, but it was the best thing I ever did.
Wow.
And so,
The Bulldog Perkins, he did not let up. Good for
yes.
him.
God,
Wow.
I tell you what, it's a bulldog God.
Amen. So your husband, and obviously lovingly, patiently, he didn't force. He wasn't like there was no tension.
No, not at all.
That's
Never.
That's pretty incredible.
Because
It really is.
That's
dude.
pretty incredible.
it's not like we argued about it or anything like that. It was an internal thing going on with me.
Right.
So it's not like he knew there was a lot going on with me.
So were you like closet going into the
So-
computer and looking up?
No, it wasn't like that.
Nothing.
No. And so, yeah, I've been there for 16 years and ministered to many, many women. And it's just funny how God uses our stories.
That's right.
We all
So
come to Wise Choices. I tell you, if you're a volunteer at Wise Choices, most of us come with a story and a
Yeah,
background.
that's right.
And we use our stories to bring glory to God and to show that He is a God who redeems.
Right.
You're going to find that a lot with people that volunteer. Like
Oh, yeah.
how they ended up somewhere. There's usually a really good story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, they give you the warm fuzzies hearing it. So
That's right. You go to the homeless outreach, someone who has actually been in that position.
exactly.
We've had former directors at Wise Choices who have had abortions, right? I mean, this is, so it's something that touches all of us. So with that, so as far as like the origin of Wise Choices, how long ago was that started? Was it 20?
Well, I think the vision really started back in 1998, the end of 98. Shane Fowler. So Shane and Wendy are the founders. And Shane Fowler, I think there had been a revival or something at their church. And God had just laid it on his heart to do something with kids. Like his purpose was something with kids. But then he did, I think, a walk, the Emmaus walk. And that was in the spring of 99. And then Wendy went to one in the fall, I think, and same thing. I think someone at the table had had a miscarriage, and she just saw a grieving woman and wanted to help. And then I think they were listening to a Focus on the Family broadcast. Carol Everett was talking, and right there, they just both knew they needed to open a pregnancy resource center.
wow.
And then Andrea Duvey, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. She was doing a ministry for teens, pregnant teens, out of the back of her car, right? And just pregnancy tests and giving them the material assistance that they needed. And I guess...
Wait. So they're actually caring about pregnant women and caring about them after birth? Because I heard that's not what we do. I heard we only care about the baby up until they're born and we leave them alone, right?
Not the case.
That is not the case,
That is
right?
not the case. So I think Shane and Wendy met Andrea because she was helping a relative of Shane's. And then they got to talking, and I think she was a mentor to Wendy whenever she was doing part of her schooling. And then one day Wendy said that Andrea called her out of nowhere and said, "You're supposed to open a pregnancy resource center." And she said, "Well, how do you know that?" Shane and I know that God has told us, but how do you know that? And, then the three of them partnered and they started getting donors and all that. And so in April of 2001 is when the doors opened. And Wendy had been seeing a client before that. I think they had a phone and a desk at Bell Baptist, I believe it is. And so she had been answering calls. They had a Yellow Pages ad because you had to have a phone number to have a Yellow Pages ad and an address. So they used the church. And so a client that she had been working with ended up delivering on April 2nd, 2001, when they opened the doors. She delivered that day with twins.
Whoa, really?
So, and it was so neat. Last year, at the end of the year, it's like in 1 week, we had a set of twins that the mama brought the twins in, and 2 clients that they ended up seeing twins on the sonogram.
That's fantastic.
So it's twins has something to do with Wise Choices, it seems like.
So what's, in a nutshell, the mission, like the mission of Wise Choices specifically? I mean, as far as like when you see it and you were to communicate it to somebody, what's the mission of Wise Choices?
Empower women to make life-affirming choices, to make the right choice.
Laurie, the narrative, you can't say empower women. We don't do that. We
do
oppress
empower
women.
them, and you would be surprised on the lives that are changed.
I love that,
from
by the way.
time that
Empower
they walk
women
in the door. Yes.
to make life-affirming choices.
Yes. And men.
Fantastic.
And men.
Now
That's
it's
right.
men too.
That's right.
So
That's right.
originally the mission was just women,
Women.
but we do have a male advocate program, and we minister to the men as
And they're
well.
looking for volunteers for that program. If I
Yes.
remember
Yes.
from the
Absolutely.
Gaelic correctly, I put my name down and
I can attest that
Did not.
the training is intense. I'm still in boot camp at this point, so I'm still going through it in training. But yeah, and I think that's something that we often forget about. And of course, it is true that at the end of the day, the woman is the first line because she's the one carrying the baby. But we can't forget about the dad in the whole conversation. And you know, I touched on something. I did want to kind of get this out of the way as far as like what resources you offer, because I just saw a meme, one of my pro-choice buddies that I grew up with in high school. It's the classic trope of the woman is, you know, she's pregnant and all the pro-life people are crowding around her. And then as soon as she's born, they throw her out in the street, right? And they cast her out. And what he's saying is that we vote for, we don't want government policies to do that.
Yeah.
And I said, I won't say his name. I said, well, don't you understand that there's other means of helping? So with that, and I kind of explained a little bit, like, what is it when you have a woman come in or a young couple come in and they're early on in pregnancy? At what point do you wash your hands, or what resources do you offer to help this young person out?
As long as they need it.
Right, as long
Right.
as they need it. And
So it doesn't stop at birth.
no, we cater to like toddlers and or 3-year-old and below. But if they come in and for one, they may have another pregnancy that we can help them with. But I mean, our focus is really 3-year-old child and below. But anytime anyone comes in needing help, we're there to help.
So you're pretty much saying that if someone comes in pregnant and they have the child, you continue to see that person for a year, 2 years until they have really got on their feet and are on a good path in life. And they probably even come back and see you guys from time to time. I was guessing.
Yes,
Yeah.
we see multiple.
People on the other side of the coin don't seem to understand that we take care of our own.
Right.
Meaning, you know, if you come to me for help, like, you're one of ours now. We're gonna look after you and take care of you. And that's how this side of the coin is, in my opinion. And the other side doesn't understand that.
Well, and I think even if you're not our own necessarily, even if you got a woman who comes in who's hostile,
Absolutely.
right? They don't, it's like, at the end of the day, and by the way, when we're talking about resources, I mean, we're talking about diapers, formula, big one now. Are y'all doing
Car
okay?
seats, strollers,
Car seats, strollers,
clothes, baby food,
Adult
everything
food.
that you can
Jobs, probably jobs.
Yes, and that's one thing that, you know, anyone that's out there that
A place
is
to live.
a place to
Yes.
live. But if someone is searching for employees, we would love for them to come tell us that we can share that with the moms and dads.
That's good.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you one right now. I'm on the Wise County Committee on Aging Board, and we're always looking for employees. And it's a real part-time type job, so it could be really good for women or men that come through there. We are always looking for delivery drivers and people to help in the kitchen. So
Yeah.
Right.
keep that in mind.
So we were talking earlier about, you know, the clients that come in, they don't have cars. That's a need.
Yeah.
Cars, jobs, I mean, it's
Housing.
housing, it's endless, and just to know, like, everyone has a gift, everyone has a talent. However, some people cook. These moms, when they have a baby, do you want to take a meal over to their house or bring it to us and say we have? So everyone has a gift and a talent. So give the way you feel led. Let's talk. You have a good idea. We are open to however people want to serve. If they can just pray.
Sure.
Right.
They're bedridden, older. Pray.
Sure.
So what other ways, as far as so like you can only have a certain amount of volunteers, right? I mean, well, maybe not. We don't want to. We're not putting
the
the
limit because people are in and out all the time.
That's true. So volunteering with your time is obviously, but then donating. That's a matter of fact. That's how I've got to know Wise Choices for years. Was when I moved here, we just set up the monthly, and you take monthly drafts. It's very, and we've been doing that for years now. And I think that's something, just giving of your money is
people have to understand that organizations like this, they run sheerly on donations. There's no other, well, maybe y'all get grants. Have y'all?
That's something I was going to,
We are applying for some grants, and it is a lengthy process. But you've got to put in the work to get those funds, and
the money's there, and someone's going to get it if you don't, and that's how grants work.
So what kind of grants are you actually looking to apply for right now?
Right now, we're working on a Focus on the Family grant that they will help with our sonogram training. We have a new nurse manager, and we have 2 other nurses that are doing the sonograms, but right now our nurse manager doesn't have that certification yet. So
sonograms. Yeah, go ahead.
I got to ask this.
Yeah.
You're talking about nurses and stuff. Are they volunteering? Or are they paid positions?
We have 1 volunteer nurse, and we have 3 paid nurses right now. So
like RNs.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And part of the services they're doing, so the sonogram. So any young lady who comes in we want to get them a sonogram, right?
We do the pregnancy test first. Before we can do a sonogram, we need to confirm that is a positive pregnancy test.
Right.
And then to determine there's certain factors you've got to determine that it's an intrauterine pregnancy, determine the gestational age, and what's that? There's 3 things.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Can we scratch that?
Yeah, no, it's okay. So and then the ultrasound is a big part of that, right? Because she can determine at that point how far along, right?
Heartbeat.
Okay.
So we don't need to cut that.
Yeah, no, see, that's good.
That's what people.
It's cool.
That's what happens when you go blank when you're.
Yes.
No, that's good. So the heartbeat. So that's one of the first things, right?
That's the big thing that we do. If
only there were a bill about that.
That's a good idea.
So okay, so these young women come in, and the first thing that they hear, they see the pregnancy test, which they probably already know, and then you hear that, right?
They come in scared. If it is a crisis, which we do see quite often,
of course.
They come in afraid, and so the first thing you want to do is address those fears and to get them to see past right now.
Yeah.
Let's think a little. Months, down the road. What could this look like when things calm down? Don't rush to do something you will regret.
Yeah.
And so, that's by the time we offer them, just reasoning through the process of your fears and the resources that we have to offer and the support that we have. I mean, some of our advocates, they would take these girls home.
That's
They
right.
love them so much. I'm like, you can't take them to raise.
Yeah.
We empower them.
Right.
We teach them to fish. We don't give them the fish.
Something I think probably, if I was guessing, comes into play in this day and age. When let's say a young girl comes in, I would think that it would be important to pretty much just tell that young girl the magnitude of what's going on, not to scare her. Meaning, the value of life has been so
diminished
to a lot of the youth, especially in the generation they're growing up in. So just for a young girl to come in and realize, or to be told, that there's a human being inside of you right now, gosh, I would have to think that would help because of what they're being taught and indoctrinated, so to speak.
Right. And just them taking that first step to call and grace the door is got to be, I mean, it's like you're encouraged right out the box because they're here. They're here.
Right.
I've seen it, like behind the scenes.
Yes,
You get so
you should
excited.
I think, when people hear the heartbeat, it is life-changing for me.
That is where I was headed, yes. It's like, once you address those fears and you give them the resources, okay, so they're getting closer, and you talk to them about, people will accept this.
Yeah.
Just give it time.
Yeah.
Because you think right now that you will be disowned, you think that you'll be kicked out, and there, of course there are situations,
Sure.
but just wait and make sure that you really have a viable pregnancy, first of all. And it is the heartbeat.
Yeah.
It is when they see that little
You
flicker.
bet.
That is what seals their decision. Like, wow, was not educated.
Yeah.
I didn't, knowledge brings power.
That's right.
And so many people that I come in contact, just like you, they don't know. They hear it's not really a baby. Well,
There's a
it's
human life
tissue,
inside you
it's
right
just-
now.
And that now we know. Science proves that, it's the heartbeat.
Coming from a guy, I have an almost 18-year-old daughter, and my stepdaughter's almost 8, and I have an almost 2-year-old son. And I've been married for 3 years now. And coming from a guy who said, I'm not having any more kids. And my wife is almost 9 years younger than me, and I had to make sure that was okay with her when we were dating, and she accepted it. And we got married, and she got pregnant, and I thought I had my whole career, everything lined out. I don't have time to have a baby. And it was really selfish, okay? It was such a good lesson learned.
Good.
And then going to the first doctor appointment, or the second, hearing the heartbeat and stuff. Anyways, fast forward to almost 2-year-old right now. Gosh, I just can't even imagine how when someone is taken through, especially a young person, the right steps of having a child, how it's not just the most moving thing that could possibly happen to you. You can't possibly imagine how much you're going to love that child, especially when a young girl comes in scared. But if you can just get them to the point where they understand that that's going to be the most important thing in their life forever from that point forward, it's hard for someone to go against that if you can get them to understand that, I would think.
Yes.
From my own personal experience, that's how I feel anyways.
Yeah.
So we've had so many stories, and what you just said of girls that come in, I have so many kids, I can't have another child, and just addressing all of that. And I think of one story in particular of, you're like, what does it look like to trust God, on a daily basis when things are hard, because we in a society don't know how to do hard.
Yeah.
And realize that hard develops character.
Gosh,
That is who we become when you go through struggles. And just trying to help them to understand that. Do you trust? What does it look like when you wake up today? What does that look like? What is, depend on, ask for help if you need.
Yeah.
And we will help you and support you. But one girl in particular, after, I know it's wrong, but, it's that.
Yeah.
I know it's wrong, but.
Right.
But then after going into the sonogram room, putting that probe on her stomach and seeing 2
Oh, yeah.
Those twins again.
twins. But fast forward to, when they bring them in and the change that you see, the transformation in their face is amazing. Yeah. The confidence, they know they made they're holding that baby, and it's a miracle.
It is.
That we get to witness that all the time. We get to see these babies.
And there are cases though, and y'all have had, not everybody who walks in,
no.
right? There's some who walk out and
Choose
right,
to go have an abortion. They do.
right.
Well, I mean,
And
you're
we
not
love
going to
them
be able
anyway.
to,
Right.
You're not going to be able to save them all.
No.
And we want to keep the door open. We want them to come back for the recovery program that we offer, because
Right.
there's going to come a time, it may not be next week, but there's going to come a time that they're going to regret that decision. And we want to walk alongside them through that and get them the recovery, the forgiveness that they need.
This is one of those situations where I of course, there's a lot of things that are glossed over by the hard pro-choice advocates, right? I'm not necessarily talking about the young girl who's struggling with whether I'm talking about, you know what I mean?
Hardcore, yeah.
The ideologues.
Yeah.
Is abortion regret, which is a very real thing.
That's what I was about to say. I know
very
a
real
lot
thing.
of people who,
Even if they're still
it's been 10
pro-choice.
years and they still have a hard time with it.
Correct. So, and that leads me to one thing I wanted to talk about was some of the objections that we hear. And of course, the most common one, even though it accounts for less than 2% or less than 1%, depending on the stats, is rape, incest. And they always say, well, that's how you can't take that choice away from them. And I say, why would you want to compound the trauma of rape or incest or whatever? And now that young lady, as a result of that, has now murdered her child. And like you said, that she may not at the time see it that way. She may not see it that way, but eventually, if she comes to understand what a human life is, and now she's got the regret of being
And when you
essentially,
compound with that person never really having a relationship with God and living with that regret their whole life. Because I mean, I would imagine you would have to ask for forgiveness to ever get over that. And you would have to have a good relationship with the Lord to be able to ask for forgiveness and move forward, or else that's going to be on your back your whole life.
yeah. So whenever you hear that, as far as the rape and incest, I mean, how do you respond to that?
Well, there are girls that choose to give life to their baby because that is another human being, you know, and it's not that little baby's fault. And I know, you know, there is help out there to get, you know, what the counseling you need to overcome a rape, you know. So there's other options. There's adoption. You know, if you don't want to raise the child, I understand. But there are other mothers and dads who would love to raise this child. You know?
Well, and don't you think, too, this is another thing that I think that we should all be able to find common ground on, is that like the adoption and the foster system, we might need some help on that. We might need to help restructure some of that. 'Cause it's not,
Absolutely.
You're such a good point. It's hard.
Right.
I know some great people who just have gone through sheer hell trying to adopt.
right.
I don't know why it's
Some great
takes
people.
so long. 2 years on many people.
Well, and a lot of people that I know people who have adopted from the Philippines, from China, from wherever, because the American adoption system
Right.
is so. See, and that's one thing that we talk like again, it goes back
Same
to
as the immigration system.
right. It's broken, and it makes you wonder, well, why is it broken? That the system itself to make adoption easier, right? Now, you know,
Well, let's see what happened now. What happens now?
right. Now that
things
Roe's overturned,
Yeah, since things are changing.
that's a good point.
So,
Lord willing, it will.
Lord willing.
So as far as the women who come in, would you say financial hardships is probably one of the
Number one.
really?
Number one.
And COVID has probably compounded that exponentially. You mentioned cars earlier in housing. God, they've just gotten out of control. And, I mean, affordability is just not there. There's really nothing affordable. Those $3,000 to $5,000 decent cars, they're gone.
Yeah.
You know, the rent house for $1,000, those are gone.
Rent's
And
insane
how do
right
you
now.
get a job if you don't have a car?
Sure.
Right.
That is what we
don't live in
see
New York
clients
City,
that
you
come
know.
in and say, I can't get a job, you know, I don't have a car. And you're like, where do you start?
Right.
And helping these people. But we do. We get on the phone and we start, we have our male advocates are always on the phone looking for something to help these men get a job or find, you know, public transportation, TAPs and things where we give them the resources. Wise County has so many. And Texas has resources
Oh, yeah.
like crazy to help.
Oh, yeah.
So when you have you mentioned the dads, right? We kind of touched on that earlier. So when you have the dad come in, what is the whole process with them to get them convinced? I mean, of course, we've got to talk life first. I think that's the same hill we want to, pass with the mom. But you mentioned the job and stuff. Is that part of what Wise Choices is doing?
Right. Just the resources in general, going through, there's just like, even if they do have a minimum wage job, there's so many resources out there that if they take advantage of, it just I think our guys calculated it. If they took advantage of all the resources that are available, it's like $20 an hour. That it would boost a minimum wage employee, and then with all the resources, it ends up being about $20.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the job is just going, when you go over and above, what we do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We could just give resources, but we are listening to. That's the first thing you do when you hear, how can I help meet that need? That's not necessarily part of Wise Choices. We're just like, we are a community. And we come together as a community.
And we have, and do y'all have other pregnancy resource centers, like people that that maybe at Tarrant County? Because and that's one thing I wanted to dispel this myth is that, Wise Choices is not unique. Y'all are great.
Whoa.
And y'all are my favorite.
We aren't unique.
But they're everywhere. My buddy who was making this objection the other day, he lives in Long Beach, California. And I just went on, searched it up, and found 3 right there.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're all across the country, and they've been under attack for the past couple months as well.
That's exactly right.
If you don't know anything about that, you probably need to know.
Yeah.
I think it's up to 50 or 60 last I saw. It's not being talked about either. So what we're talking about is
Jane's Revenge is the organization that's kind of heading that up.
There's a few of them, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pregnancy resource centers across the country are being attacked and firebombed and destroyed. I don't even think there's a DOJ investigation yet.
No. Even though there's a coordinated effort that's happening.
Can't wrap my mind around that. But
Well,
here we are.
yeah.
So have you all had any threats or?
We have not.
Good.
We've been so blessed. We were expecting to, but the Lord has done some funny things to protect us. We've asked for it, and He has offered it. So, no, we haven't had any threats.
You've got a great community behind you if somebody were to do so. That's probably the best thing about Decatur and Wise County is this community. I'm born and raised here, and I've done several of these podcasts with people from different groups and organizations, and I could probably do 20 more because there's just so many good people doing so much good volunteer work.
Well, we were at the prayer rally Monday night, right? So we go down there on the square, and even our protesters are, they kind of know.
There were a few there?
There were a few there, but there were no bells, there were no whistles, there was no screaming, there were no offensive hats, right? They just had their signs, and I actually went over and talked to them. I said, hey, I just want to thank you.
Did they have blue hair?
There was pink and different colored hair, which is cool, whatever. I have no frame of reference, so I can't say anything about it. But no, I went over and thanked them because, I wanted to show compassion to these young ladies.
They're right.
Because they're believing a lie. But I also wanted to say, hey, I thank you for the way that you protested today. Because they were on the other corner. If anyone knows the Decatur Square, they were on the other corner. And they could have easily disrupted, and they didn't.
That's pretty cool.
It was all things considered, and I think everybody there when we disbanded was showing them love, and so I think
it's a rarity when the two sides there's respect shown.
Yeah.
So
that's what we always are trying to do, right? That's the whole point, right?
We weren't on the square to rub it in anyone's face.
No.
We were not there to gloat. We were actually there to thank God for what He has given us.
Sure.
That's a very good point.
It was just a praise night, and several people were just praying. We are not here to celebrate their hurt.
Correct.
And I know they feel that.
Yes.
And that we want to hear them and empathize with them, but not rub it in their face. And if anybody is rubbing in their face and making and celebrating gloating, then that is not the correct.
Well,
I saw a lot of gloating on Twitter, and I actually saw several people, make the comment like the the gloating is pretty disgusting.
Right. Well, we live in a meme world, right? So the memes are funny. So someone puts together some of these memes, and then you see it, and it's to own the libs, right? Yeah. And it's easy to fall into. But I think you're right.
I'm probably the most guilty person in the world.
Yeah,
constantly.
Currently banned from Facebook.
I'm not saying that I'm better.
I
stoop down to that level almost every day.
But on this issue, though, there is a sensitivity there because we are trying to persuade and win the hearts and minds of people, right? I mean, that's our goal. Is like we said, to make abortion unthinkable, right? It's one thing to make it illegal, but we want to make it unthinkable.
I think sorry to cut you off, I think something that we could do on our side of the aisle, do a really good job on, is educating people what other countries on abortion is.
Yes.
It's pretty frowned upon in most of the rest of the world. Even the countries that allow it, it's pretty strict.
It was us and North Korea and Canada were the only ones that allowed
Australia,
up to birth.
Maybe. Oh no.
They even had restrictions on it. Yeah.
So there are restrictions, but I think just that alone can show people how ass backwards it was for us to be that way for 70 years.
Oh yeah.
Because the rest of the world frowns upon it.
So like when you said that, it made me think of it that it's all about the message is important, but how we deliver it is crucial, right?
You can't have a conversation with someone if you've already shut the door.
Right.
You can't educate someone that you've isolated.
And this one is one that, boy, you got to admit, and we've all had a lot of conversations about this issue. Ooh, that door is already pretty shut.
Yeah.
I mean, right out of as soon as you bring it up in the room, boom, doors just close.
And we just want those women and men that are facing the unplanned pregnancies just to come, let us educate them.
Right.
But we want that door to be open, and that's what we're not looking to offend anyone. And like we talked about earlier, we're going to love them no matter what that choice is that they make. We want them to come back. And if they go, right now, our biggest threat is the abortion pill. And because though it's illegal to mail it to Texas, it's happening.
Oh, of course.
Gosh, yes.
And so we want them to know we also are a part of the network for the abortion pill reversal. And so if they've only taken the first of the abortion pill, if they get seen immediately and start a medication to
a detox.
Reverse,
Holy mackerel.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
I did not know that either. Interesting.
So it's just, and so many babies have been saved.
Oh,
wow.
It's exciting.
I saw, remember how Joe Rogan was touting the ivermectin during COVID, and everybody slammed him for taking horse medicine. Well, I can't remember which rag put it out, but they're talking about telling people to take a certain drug for horses for abortions. I can't remember what it was. So those are the type of things you have to combat, is that type of information, because some young desperate girl is going to
there's
follow that path.
There are so many lies out there right now. Of course, we hear the nearest abortion clinic now is the mailbox. Yeah. Have we considered that? But if they don't know, what they don't understand is it's not birth control. This is true abortion that is happening, and we don't know when they order. What are you truly getting?
Yeah.
And how the side effects and the risks that you are taking
Unmonitored at your home.
Yes. And so that we just want them to feel safe, come in, talk to us, and we will have a fact-filled conversation
with
about
stats,
with stats,
with the science, back it all up.
Absolutely.
And the same thing, if RU486 has side effects, abortion itself.
Yeah.
I know of women personally who have had multiple abortions. Later on, whether they regretted the abortion or not is irrelevant. The fact is now they're ready to make that choice for having children, and it's not as easy because there are certain complications.
That is a risk.
There is a risk.
And, it's not always. It's not 100% risk.
No.
It is a risk.
I mean, pregnancy in this day and age, I think a third now are lost to miscarriage, and that's been on the rise. It's on the rise, been on the rise, and it looks like it's not going to downtrend anytime soon, which is incredibly unfortunate. And if you look at the birth rates globally, one of the biggest problems humanity's facing in the next 50 years is just the lack of people being born. There's just not the globalists would like to tell you that the world's overpopulated.
No.
The fact of the matter is there are not enough human beings on this earth.
We live in a prophylactic culture. I mean, it's all about, don't know kids, wait until you're old, then have kids, and then, that's a whole issue.
So are we thinking that because of new laws and everything's just happened with Roe, are we thinking that illegal procedures being done is something that's we're going to have to worry about? Do you think that's going to be happening a lot?
I think so.
I mean, always that's a risk.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also one of those arguments that you will hear.
The back alley, the coat hanger.
Exactly.
Well, that was one of the
That
girls'
was
signs.
exactly.
She had the sign. She
saw it.
said, "This is what you're praying for," and it was a hanger, of course, right? We
Right.
all know that, right?
It's not like abortion is illegal. That's what people don't
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Roe versus Wade did not
Yeah.
make it illegal. It made
What the
it
states decide.
went back to the states.
It
to make that
overpowered the
decision.
states and said you cannot, right? That's what Roe
Right.
was essentially
That's
doing.
what
It was an infringement upon
It
state
was actually
rights.
illegal in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's up to the states. It was up to the states to decide.
Well, the federal government, the federal government is saying, it's constitutional right. That was wrong. That is actually
Absolutely.
not a constitutional right.
It was horrible jurisprudence.
Dude,
Horrible
right.
jurisprudence.
What the choice made was the correct choice. And really, to the people, the best counter argument is, you're taking our rights. No, actually, we're giving you your
more
rights.
rights.
This is how it's supposed to work.
That's
You get
exactly
to,
right.
You get to vote.
Yeah. That's
Correct.
Who
Right.
you
Yeah.
put in office.
The values of your community are
Yes.
now represented in the legislation as it relates to
Yes.
this issue. And one thing we talked about earlier, and this is the one that and through the vaccine mandates, right? And of course, we've seen a lot of the trolling happening. Like, hey, are you my body?
choice.
Are you my body, my choice? And they're like, yes. He's like, so what about vaccine mandates? And then all of a sudden, you see the gears break down. So one thing I was helped whenever the vaccine mandates first started. I was down at Harris and we were doing a protest there and talking to the nurses, and that really it resonated with me that conservatives have always believed in the power or the importance of bodily autonomy. Freedom, right? Like if you don't have freedom over your own bodily choices, then you don't have freedom at all.
Sure.
God-given.
Amen. I mean, right.
Sure.
This is not a government thing. This is your
Sure.
God-given
You
right.
bet.
So, and this is where ladies, it breaks down in my head that this is for 49 years, this doesn't get across. We believe in my body, my choice, right? Everyone in this room does. We all believe in that. And we believe that everyone, even those who don't have a voice yet, that have a body, should have a choice. And the most fundamental choice you can have is the choice to live and breathe and not be killed. And that's what we say. And I just want a pro-choice person to say, look, we disagree on it, but I at least understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I know you believe that's a human being, and I know the DNA and the science and everything. I wouldn't expect them to say that. I know you have all the evidence on your side, but seriously, it really is. We're talking about
They
it.
can't say that.
I know.
Because then it would be the biggest contradiction of the truth.
Well,
Period.
that's why every argument that we hear, it always is about the mother, which is important. And it's and for us as pro-life people to make sure that yes, we acknowledge.
If she gets birth, she's gonna die.
Right.
Really?
Now, and by the way,
a common argument.
well, that's a good point too. Is that the life of the mother? That's not what we're talking about,
They
right?
can still get an abortion if the life of the mother is at stake.
Yes, it's the same thing. So you're hanging off a cliff. I'm holding your hand. You're hanging, and I've only got two hands, and I'm hanging on to both of you,
Right.
and I've got to make a choice at this point. Now I don't know what I'm going to do, right? But I'm not going to let both of you die. But I've got to make a choice, right? And that's exactly what we're talking about. So no pro-life people, at least none that I know, would say, nope, she should be forced. And if she dies and the baby dies, you can't. It's like, no, we're not saying that.
No.
And by the way, those are 0.00, 0.065. 0.065% of abortions are procured for that.
Something that just crossed my mind. People in America don't realize how free, I guess, this country has been. If you think about growing up in China, where you're not allowed to have more than one kid. If it was a girl,
Two now.
yeah,
They updated that.
Everybody knows that. I mean, just the stark contrast of the two different countries and what you can and can't do. Gosh, we've always had it good here in America, and so many people just don't even realize it.
Oh yeah. Have y'all seen One Child Nation? Have you seen that yet? So
The video?
the documentary from China, it's baffling. So One Child Nation was basically, it's a Chinese, she's American now, and she goes through and explains the one child policy. And it is one of the most pro-life documentaries you will see because it talks about how the Chinese government forced them and forced abortions and literally would come into their homes and take them away. And she shows all the discarded babies that are in the dumps. It's horrific.
Gosh.
Now here's where again that disconnect happens, and it boggled my mind. At the end of the documentary, most pro-life documentary I've ever seen, her conclusion was not that the government was horrific for killing all of these hundreds of millions of babies, but because they did it against her choice. And if they had just let her make the choice,
It would have been okay.
it would have been okay. And
That's crazy.
I was like, this woman sees these, she sees them. She know, and so it goes back to that point that we always have to focus, right? And that's why I've addressed, you've seen it, what is the unborn, right? Scott Klusendorf and Greg Kokel, they really came up with some fantastic resources. So no matter what, and that's one thing I just, was hoping to encourage people who may, be pro-life and may not know how to persuasively communicate that. You just ask that question, right? What is the unborn?
Yeah.
S.L.I.D.
That's it. S.L.E.D.
S.L.I.D.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And then,
That's what I thought.
yeah, S.L.E.D. Size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependency, right? And you take, because basically what we're asking is, what is a human being, right? Why are each of us special? Or are we? Right? And if we, what makes us valuable as human beings? And then, of course, the trotting out the toddler method, which is one of my favorites, which is any of the excuses that you hear for abortion. If you can acknowledge that this human being is a human being. So now you take any of these, yeah, but what about rape? I say, okay, what about rape? You have a 2-year-old child in the room who was conceived by rape, or who has Down syndrome, or who is poor, or who is being abused.
Right.
Is the solution, oh, well, now a viable option is to kill that 2-year-old? Of course not. Now, Peter Singer and some of those guys, they'll actually say stuff like that. The academic pro-choice people, they'll follow, and I at least respect them for that they follow it to its conclusion.
I think
that,
I
it's
respect
okay.
anybody that really stands firmly rooted in their beliefs. Whether I disagree or not, I can respect somebody who stands firm in their beliefs. And
Well, at least those that say you can kill a 1-year-old are consistent. That's what I would say. I mean, they're at least consistent because there's that's a human being.
I might not respect those beliefs.
I don't respect the belief at all, but they're at
person,
least consistent, right?
Person I will.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
I've said S.L.I.D.
Yeah.
So I guess I added to it because that's intelligence level.
Oh, I like it.
Because some people, if you can't make your own decisions, that is another argument.
Yeah.
And so I came up with S.L.I.D.
I like it. So that's kind of a level of development, but no, you're right though, because just intelligence alone.
Right.
I like that.
But that goes into more than just babies. It goes into, elderly as well.
Oh, well, there's no doubt because
The
if
value of life.
yes, so if you make the threshold that, so invalids, now we're talking euthanasia. The door is wide open, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I guess anything else? Because I was thinking, if there's
Well, I mean, to wrap up for sure, I would like to give you all the opportunity to speak to whoever's watching. Let the people know what you guys need, what positions you have open for volunteer. I mean, my mother's an RN who's not working, and her license is current, so
Oh,
we'll see if I can get her on over there.
that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Instructors. I mean, that's what I mean. Someone with in the medical field profession, I think our clients just value their opinion even more whenever they're
Sure.
giving them medical knowledge, information on what's going on in their body, and
Sure.
or with my kid that has a consistent earache or whatever. So just things like that. But instructors, we need advocates, male advocates. Another thing that we are going to be having in October, we have it approved, where we will have a run, walk, and stroll 5K.
Nice.
I think Run, Walk, Stroll for Life is a 5K and a 1 mile. So we're just in the beginning phase of planning that, but we're going to need, sponsors. We're going to need participants, volunteers. So that's one way that without all the training, because as you know, the training is quite lengthy to be an advocate, but there's things like that to just help out. In our family, when we have, just last weekend we had a client family picnic, and people to make hot dogs, hamburgers, just to feed our clients.
Right.
We have classes. Have we discussed classes?
I guess we haven't.
We have
I
classes
said
across the
instructors.
street. Yes. When you said instructors, I was like, have we talked about our classes? We have some really quality classes that we offer our men and women. We don't have, we have one night class. We need more night classes for people who work, because what happens is we teach these parents how to be good parents. We offer Bible studies. We offer prenatal classes.
Childbirth classes.
And thank you. And
That-
it gives them
these-
points
so
to be able
these-
to shop in the boutique.
Those resources to me that you're talking about, those classes, I think they are hugely important to go with helping someone, through a pregnancy or whatever. Those are the resources that are really going to land them on their feet to help them.
Exactly.
Teach them to fish.
Yeah,
Teach them to
yeah,
fish.
exactly.
So, that's what we tell them in there. We want you to be. Our donors want you to be. That's why they give. They want to help to create a better community of parents. Yeah. And so, they can earn points to shop in the boutique. We give them gifts when they come. We load them down with diapers.
So, okay. See, so if you want, and now of course you volunteer, you'll give to whomever, but if there are these young people who are in, or whoever are in these classes, they can actually get points to where, right. So they got a little skin in the game.
Like money,
Yes,
exactly.
yes.
They got a little skin in the game.
We
It's
do
an
give
Earn While
free.
You Learn program.
Earn while you learn. Exactly.
And it is by Zoom as well
wow.
for those who want to take online. So, our classes, we need instructors to help with that. If you feel led to do some type of mentor group at night or on a Saturday morning.
Teaching
or
a skill.
Right.
Doing men's skills or women's skills, of course, cooking. It's endless.
Sure.
You have an idea, we
Sure.
want to hear from
Sure.
you.
And if you have money, they want your donations. They won't
That's
ask,
it.
but I will. It's seriously, because this stuff, the electricity's not free. That room's not free. You've got paid positions.
There
and
couldn't be a better place to donate your money.
it really is not.
It really couldn't.
It's instant. Like for me, it's like it was church and then this. And then
So,
you.
can we add that we're wanting to build a new building? We have
Yes.
that
Sure,
in the future.
absolutely.
It's coming up.
Yes.
We have
Really?
the land, and we have a huge, not huge.
It
we
would-
have a start.
We have a start, but with the cost of construction right now, we're
Right.
going to have a huge need. And we've got the land to build it on, but now to get the money to even break ground. So, we have an architect that's working on it, which is great. We've got to finalize a design to then find out how much that will cost.
Once you get the
Exciting.
plans made, send them to me. I'll see what I can donate for the air conditioned heating.
That's
I've
awesome.
worked with a
Awesome.
few different organizations just this summer where we're doing
you for
that.
that.
So,
That
of course.
is wonderful.
So
Yeah.
anybody who has
Business.
if you have gravel, if you have some kind of something that you want to have, we want to pull the community together to build this, be a part.
I bet I can get
Whether
a
it's
handful of business owners
buying
to
a
help.
brick
Got
or
some
buying
landscaping guys
a
we know,
room or
Yeah.
something. So yes, we want to come together. We're very excited about being able to build this new building.
That's awesome.
That's
just
fantastic.
to serve more clients.
Right.
And I said to my husband, I was like, well, all this, everything is getting so expensive. It's going to just cost so much. And he said, well, God better start saving.
He's a cash only God. You don't have to worry about that.
He's
So-
got it. God's got it.
So there was one thing I did want to ask about. So average weekly visitors, and maybe do you know how many women and in families that you've seen since it's opened, or at least
Well, I did a little research today. Our computer program only goes back to 2006, but we kind of extrapolated. But over 5,000 clients and over 20,000 total visits in the last 21 years.
Wow.
So, and then for weekly, I think we see about 20 a week.
And what are the hours and how, like?
Right, and that's only 3 days a week.
Okay.
So we're right
Tell me
now.
the address where you're located.
We're at 604 North Trinity is our medical center, and then across the street, 603 is our education
Right
center.
north of the square, right?
Yes,
right off Trinity.
Yes. So that's where we hold classes in the green building across the street from our medical center. But what was your other question?
Oh, I was just, as far as so weekly visitors, historic.
Roughly 20.
Yeah.
About 20 a week. We've been looking about 90 a month that we're seeing. And
We are faith-based,
yes.
and we have had how many salvations?
579 salvations since the beginning. And we don't know how good the record keeping was back in the beginning. And, well, take that back. That's since 2006. So I'm sure that there were many more before that. But
This year?
this year we've had 27 so far.
Oh, wow.
So
So praise God.
Lives have changed eternally,
Yes.
right?
And you don't know how many lives change from those people and on and on and on.
Right. So
the
the
mother,
cycle
save the
goes.
child.
That's right. So if you had, so I guess we can close on this. If you had if you're talking to the mom out there, and you had to say to her, what would you say?
You had
to
a
that?
few sentences to tell her. What are the couple most important things you could tell her?
We care. We want you to come talk to us. We will walk beside you. We will help you. We will teach you. We will love you. We will not judge you. You cannot tell us something we have not heard. That's what I tell the girls. I've heard it all.
And it's all confidential.
Still, we care, and we are very.
It's all confidential. So, anyone that, is afraid that, someone up there might know their mom or dad or something, we sign on that. It is purely confidential. Nothing can leave our facility.
Right.
Very well. Ladies, thank y'all so much for coming in today.
Thank you so much.
You're doing great work here in Wise County, and hopefully this spreads the word a little bit more, and hopefully it could help just one person.
That's right.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, ladies.
Adios.
God bless you.